am privileged to get an opportunity to introduce past president of the ICAI. CA K. Raghu hails from Bangalore and finished his graduation from St. Joseph's College, Bangalore, before qualifying as a chartered accountant in the year 1990. He heads K. Raghu and Company, a leading firm of chartered accountants in Bangalore, which specializes in taxation audits as well as investment and technology consulting businesses. Raghu sir was elected as the president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in the year 2014-15, which was when he spearheaded various reforms at the institute. In the past, he's held various high-profile positions, including being a member on the board of the Confederation of Asia and Pacific Accountants, technical advisor on the board of the South Asian Federation of Accountants, and being a member on the board of IRDA, as well as the National Advisory Committee on Accounting Standards. At present, he is a member on the board of the International Federation of Accountants, headquartered in New York. Raghu sir has also been on the forefront of various social activities and also served as the president of a Rotary chapter in Bangalore. Raghu sir, we are all yours. Please start whenever you are ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for having introduced me. Greetings to all the members at Ernakulam, especially to the newly elected chairman of the Ernakulam branch, Mr. Ranjit Warrior. I am very happy to note from Babu that Ranjit Warrior has been doing an excellent job as the chairman of the Ernakulam branch. And I can only tell Ranjit, this is one opportunity God has given you to do your best. And I still remember my chairmanship at the Bangalore branch. It was a great opportunity to meet the members, students, and do a lot of activities for people from your city. I think you should put your best foot forward. I'm very confident that you will do an excellent job. Congratulations to Deepa also for supporting Mr. Ranjit in all the initiatives. And we wish Deepa all the best, and we're very confident that she will be the first chairperson of the Ernakulam branch. We wish her good luck. And then, of course, two eminent, you can say guests of the institute, my good friends. One is Mr. Our regional council member and the past chairman of the SIRC, and then our central council member and the chairman of the professional development committee. Mr. Babu Abraham, when he called me up yesterday and requested me, Mr. Raghu, I want you to inaugurate this seminar. We are having a webinar conducted by the branch. I said yes, because when Babu is such a close friend of mine, whenever he calls me for anything, I don't think I can say no to him. Such a dear friend. Always we've been working together. And as he rightly said, he played a very important role. When I took over as the vice president, I got elected to the vice president. When I came to Ernakulam to meet him to seek his support, he gave me a positive response, and he said, Mr. Raghu, we are with you. You are from the southern region. Definitely will support you. And he really helped me. And not only supporting me in the election to the vice president, right throughout the year, he played a very important role in the examination committee. And friends, today, if you see so many reforms in the examination committee, I think a lot of credit should go to Babu for the kind of initiatives he has taken, trying to see that there's a gap between examination. 15 minutes time is given before writing the examinations. And many reforms, like for example, you're getting the digital version of the answer scripts. So everything Babu has taken the lead, has transformed the way the examination committee works. And I would like to compliment Babu for the good work he has done for the institute at various committees, as the chairman of the peer review board, then as currently the chairman of the professional development committee. I should compliment the council and Mr. Babu for the good work they have been doing. You take the current bank audit, they have released a lot of books on bank audit. We have the guidance note, we have the publication of internal financial control, and LFR. My compliments to you, Babu, for guiding the members, because this is, as Babu very rightly said, bank audits are very, very critical. The quality of work is highly important, and each and every chartered accountant who has been allotted bank branch audit should do an excellent job, because the Reserve Bank of India places a lot of importance to the work that is being done by us. The entire stakeholders, or the society at large, expects us to do a high quality job, because a lot of public money is there in the banks, and it is our duty to see that we put in our best efforts to do a quality bank audit, as Mr. Babu said. My compliments to you, Babu, for the good work you are doing as the chairman of the Professional Development Committee. And I'm sure in the current year itself, we could see an increase in the bank audit fees, as suggested by Mr. Babu. Thank you very much, Mr. Babu, for the good work that you are doing. Coming to Mr. Joman, Joman has been the past chairman, extremely energetic, is a good speaker. I heard that he has been speaking on a lot of seminars and LFR at various branches in Kerala. My compliments to you, Joman, and I'm sure you will share your knowledge with all the members and try to see how best the quality of work can be improved. Now, with this,
Thank you.
introductory remarks, I would straight away like to go on to my, Babu requested me, Mr. Raghu, you have been on the board of a public sector bank. I would be very happy if you could touch upon what is the role of auditors in fraud detection. I thought maybe I can share some of my insights, some of my experiences. And of course, Mr. Dhananjay Gokhale, who's speaking on welfare advances and IRAC norms. My good wishes to you, Mr. Dhananjay Gokhale, a very popular speaker, Mr. Dhananjay. And I'm sure his knowledge would be of great, use to the member while conducting the bank audit. With this, friends, I will take you through a small presentation, which yeah, is my presentation visible? The NPA, the NPA, the mounting NPAs. And today, one big problem for the banking sector is the mounting NPAs, the high provisioning that is happening, and there's an emergent need for the banks to clean up their the books, the balance sheets. So today, even right from the Prime Minister to the Finance Minister, they are aware of the fact that's plaguing the banking industry. And one of the main reasons why the Finance Ministry, the Reserve Bank of India is keen that the public sector banks should, make provision for cleaning up the balance sheets, and they are putting a lot of efforts. And we as chartered accountants play a very important role in trying to see that right provisioning has been made for all the NPAs. And today, what is happening? Another important thing that is facing the banking sector is the recapitalization. All of you are seeing to comply with Basel III norms and to improve the financial capacity of the banks. The government is constantly, trying to introduce capital to the banks. Even when I was in the Indian Overseas Bank, we had a lot of funds flowing in from the government of India to see that the banks were able to sort of emerge stronger. And but one good thing is that 21-22 we saw a tremendous improvement in the recovery of stressed asset. We also had the benefit of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code in 2016 that came in very handy to the banks, and SURFACE. SURFACE also was extremely useful. Coming to the impact of the COVID or the banking sector, as you know very well, a lot of policy measures were announced by the Reserve Bank of India to mitigate the effects of COVID, because COVID impacted almost all sectors of the economy. I think everyone would agree with me that COVID was something that impacted every sector, and the banks took a very positive step in trying to mitigate the effects of COVID by way of legislative amendments. And a lot of initiatives were taken to, ensure that things are under proper control. And if you look at the commercial bank, the scheduled commercial bank GNPA, the gross non-performing assets ratio declined from 9.1 to 8.2 for the March ending 2019 to March ending 20. You see it's come down to 8.2, and further for September 20 it came down to 7.5%. So what has happened is, if you look at the banking sector throughout the lockdown also, we had all the branches in the country open. All the bank branches were functioning. The bank staff were able to do the banking activities. I think we should compliment the entire banking industry, the entire staff of the banks that kept the bank doors open right throughout the COVID. In spite of the 2-week or 4-week lockdown we had, banks were the only sector that was service sector that really committed itself to the citizens of our country. On September 3rd, 2020, I think all of you are aware, the Supreme Court of India put a stop on the NPA clock of the Indian banks, and they ruled that banks cannot classify loan accounts as NPA as a standard that are not in default. So this is something which that happened recently. And RBI has been doing a lot, being the apex regulator, as Babu rightly said. They're keen to see that they move to what is happening globally. We have adopted Basel III norms. Then asset quality reviews for transparency and classification of NPAs has also been brought in. And insolvency and bankruptcy code, we have seen a lot of quick wins for the bank. Many banks have been benefited by the insolvency and bankruptcy code. And yes, our professionals also are playing a very important role as insolvency professionals. And I'm sure way forward that we can see more and more insolvency, what you can say, proceedings to get fastened up so that chartered accountants can try to see how best we can help the banks to recover their amounts. And today, prompt corrective action, banks that are not doing well, the RBI puts them under PCA, prompt corrective action, and now we have a revised system of PCA. So basically, what is happening is, insolvency and bankruptcy code will help banks to clean up their books. That is the biggest take home. And the insolvency professionals, many chartered accountants have passed the insolvency examination conducted by the insolvency board. And we have been seeing that this has come very handy to the banking sector. And some of the reasons why the banks are put under it is very essential for you as a bank branch auditor to understand what is PCA. Because when a bank is under PCA, you need to understand that the RBI puts a lot of restriction on capital expenditure, on revenue expenditure. Every capital expenditure has to come to the board for approval. And whenever there is a PCA, the bank tries to reduce the expenditure. So if the bank which has been allotted to you under PCA, I think you should understand what is the PCA framework given to the bank and ensure that the branches have complied with the PCA directions of the Reserve Bank of India. So basically, they ensure that as of now, only 4 public sector banks are under PCA: Central Bank of India, UCO Bank, IOB, and United Bank of India. And most of the banks are outside the PCA. As I said, the banks were capitalized quite a lot. 20,000 crores is proposed to be infused in the year 2021 and 22, while 70,000 crores was infused in 2019-20. This is a very big chunk of investment that came in. And the credit rank improved from 77 in 2018 to 63 in 2020, as per the World Bank's ease of doing business. And 5 public sector banks, there is the Bank of India, Bank of Maharashtra, Oriental Bank, Allahabad Bank, moved out of PCA through capital support from the government of India. This is something that we as branch auditors should understand the role played by the government, how capitalization has helped the bank. And some of the government initiatives for financial inclusion was a big success. The Pradhan Mantri Jana Dhana Yojana, where 80% of the total Indian population are now part of the formal financial system. 359 million bank accounts have been opened. You can see that when you go for bank audits this time that so many new accounts would have been opened. And a lot of focus has been given to the agrarian and MSME sections. And the government announced a lot of schemes. And when we are on the board of the bank, we know the kind of trust the government gives for all these schemes. And when you go for bank branch audit, you might be asked to do some special verification of these schemes that have been launched by the government. For example, if loans have been given to farmers in the agricultural segment, you might have to look into it and see that the genuine beneficiaries have been benefited by this scheme. So it is essential for you as bank branch auditors to know what are the new schemes that have been launched by the government for the MSMEs, for the agricultural sector, so that you are better equipped to carry out the bank branch audit. What is the change? As Babu and Joman rightly said, a lot of digitalization has happened. Today, there's no need for you to go to the bank to draw your money, to update your bank passbook. Everything gets automated. It's all paperless, and just having an Aadhaar card, you can link your bank account to any of the UPI United payment interface. Mobile banking has become very common. You can buy air tickets, you can buy a tie, everything on the mobile phone. You can draw money, you can make payments. And today, UPI, a seamless and hassle-free payment option has come. Even wherever you go, you can just pay that. You go to a province store, you can pay through Google Pay or any of these apps that are there, BHIM apps that are there. And contactless payments have become the order of the day. Thanks to COVID, many banks have switched over to contactless payments. You just have to show your card and the debit happens. Biometric authentication is coming, and blockchain and artificial intelligence are the next big thing that will happen. And I think the role of the audit is changing. Gone are the days. I still remember in the year 1987 when I was doing my articleship, we used to go for bank branch audit. Bank branch audits those days in the year 87 were so different. But today when you do a bank branch audit, things have changed so much. We're all in a computerized environment. We have CBS today. Everything is automated. A lot of transactions take place on the mobile phones. So things have changed. So what is happening is that those days, 87, we used to physically go to the branches, sit down, verify all the loan ledgers, verify all the ledgers of the savings banks, then fixed deposits. We used to do a physical cash verification, look through all the instruments, and we used to spend a lot of time in the bank branch itself conducting it. But today, thanks to CBS, most of the banks or all the banks have migrated to a core banking solution, and as a result of which, once core banking solution has been adopted, I think there needs to be a change in the methodology. And one good thing which I find in CBS is that it's been a success story as far as India is concerned. India has, been a success story. CBS is very, very popular, and I have seen how the bank, CBS in other countries, the banks, foreign banks, the CBS of foreign banks is more or less on par with what is happening in the foreign banks. The ease of use and all is almost the same. Friends, coming to the the fact that once you are auditor of a branch, yes, you need to conduct an independent IT audit at the branch level. You need to ensure whether the accounting entries, the calculations, everything is built in the CBS is being adhered to by the bank branch. Exception reports, NPA related reports are all being generated by the system properly by doing some sample checks. So what is important that we need to do a review and analysis of the CBS environment, because CBS environment is prone sometimes, for various reasons, you need to see that everything that is being generated of the system is proper. And if you're able to use some, audit tools, I think that will be very good. The institute is planning to come out with audit tools for conducting bank branch audit, but if at all you have your own audit tools, yes, you should use it. But way forward, I think audit tools will become very critical. And another important thing which I would like to share with all of you is that following the standards of auditing. Today, what is happening is that the way audits are conducted by different practice units vary. Now we have standards on auditing pronounced by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and it is essential for us to follow the standard on auditing so that the quality of bank branch audit is the same, and the degree of depth in application of this standard. It is necessary for the auditor to have a record of all the evidence. Mr. Babu, as the chairman of the peer review board, would agree with me that whenever a peer review is conducted, we find that the audit documentation is lacking. I have worked in the disciplinary committee as a president, vice president. I've seen many times when bank branch audits are conducted, whether it's concurrent audit or bank branch audit, when a complaint is filed with the credit department or the inspection department on the chartered accountant that he has not done his job correctly, when we call the CA in front of the disciplinary committee and ask him for the audit working papers, many times we find that the branch auditor is not having audit working papers. My only request to all the bank branch auditors today in this webinar is that please ensure that a lot of time is spent by you on maintaining the audit documentation. It is not necessary that you have to maintain a physical copy, even a digital copy is sufficient, and the peer review board permits you to keep the audit documentation on digital mode. Even in the disciplinary committee, let us say you are subject to disciplinary proceedings, if you provide digital evidence of the documents of the audit which you have conducted, that should be appropriate. So it is absolutely essential that as per SAT 220, you have to ensure that the audit also is complying with the legal regulatory requirements, the auditing standards, accounting standards, all this is very, very important. So my request to each one of you is follow the standard of auditing, maintain adequate documentation so that you're able to produce it whenever you've been asked to. So basically, what you need to do when you talk about audit documentation, why I'm spending some time on this is that we find that many audit firms are not maintaining proper documentation. You should maintain and collect all the documentary evidences, and even your audit plan, your audit program, how you assign the responsibility to team members, who has reviewed it, who has finalized it, everything should get documented. Ensure that all your working papers are filed, all your appointment letters, all supporting documents, summaries of all significant matters, confirmations, letter of confirmations, representation, your checklists that have been used for the audit, all your mails, everything should be properly indexed and stored by you, at least for the minimum period of 8 years. 8 to 10 years, if you're able to keep it, that will be good. Because for some reason you are asked to produce this before any regulator, let it be the Reserve Bank of India, let it be the Institute of Chartered of India, let it be the National Financial Reporting Authority. I think this is very important. And especially for central statutory auditors, it's all the more very critical. I still remember when I had opportunity of addressing the central statutory auditors, I told them that they should focus a lot on audit documentation, and I request all the bank branch auditors also to ensure that proper audit documentation is maintained in respect of the bank audits they are conducting. A lot of quality time is required to see that everything is properly kept. Maybe you need to train a staff, tell them why audit documentation is essential. Babuji rightly said that this year also because of COVID, the Reserve Bank of India might permit the chartered accountants to conduct a remote audit. So when you conduct a remote audit, what are the things that you need to see? The guidance note of the institute that has been released a few days back, which Mr. Babuji said, talks about how a remote audit has to be conducted. Things like what are the standard of practice of the bank. Then you have to look into whether data that is available in the CDS is accessible to you on a remote basis, and you have to ensure that since the data flows to you, NDA is something that you need to keep in mind. Ensure confidentiality of data and documents. So when you're not doing an audit under a remote fashion, there are certain checks and balances which you need to follow. And as I said, NDA we have to comply with that and ensure that the banks are able to provide audit that you require for conducting a remote audit. So please go to the guidance note that will give you a lot of guidance. Coming quickly to the frauds in the banking sector, I think a lot of financial frauds have been happening and in the banking sector. And of course, in India, the banking frauds are considered as a cost of doing business. And post liberalization, the frequency, the complexity, and the cost of banking frauds have increased manifold. And this has become a serious concern to the regulator. That is, the Reserve Bank of India, looks at frauds very closely. I had the opportunity of working in a public sector bank. I have worked in the fraud monitoring committee. I have examined many frauds. I've gone through many frauds in great detail. And let me tell you, friends, some of the frauds that are committed are so complex. It takes a lot of time for you to understand how the frauds are committed. And sometimes frauds are committed by some of the employees of the bank colluding with the customers. Sometimes it is done by outsiders. So you as branch auditors should be in a position to identify the fraud. And when you go for a bank branch audit, you need to discuss with the bank manager whether there are any fraud that have happened in the bank branch. And you should also ask the branch manager any potential frauds, any account that could be a potential fraud, so that you can deep dive into these accounts and try to find out if any frauds are there. So detecting frauds is one important thing that each one of us as a bank branch auditor should keep in mind. Of course, even in the long form audit report, there's a specific column on frauds. But I only request each one of you to see that if there are any fraud that have taken place in the bank branch, it's your duty to report the frauds to the like the central statutory auditors. And today, the kind of frauds that are taking place are in plenty. Most of you are aware of the frauds that are taking place. Stolen checks. Checks would have been stolen from the bank vault. It would have been misused. And forgery. Checks would have been forged, altered. Accounting fraud itself would have happened the way accounting would have happened at the branch level. A DD fraud, a phishing or internet fraud, disbursement fraud, shotgunning, identity theft, mortgage fraud, appraisal fraud. The whole appraisal process itself is fraudulent. Okay, and the mortgage fraud is where the mortgage of the property that is given is itself a fraud. Many times you'll be surprised when we go through these frauds, when we deep dive into it, we find that the legal opinion that has been given by the empaneled legal consultant is wrong. He has overlooked many things. So when we come across such situations, we remove them from the panel. We put them on the negative list, and we don't give them further assignments. That is, the customers or borrowing cannot go to that person, legal advisor. So we have come across in the course of analyzing frauds that frauds are committed because of improper legal opinions given by advocates. frauds are committed by people by giving improper valuation. The value of the property is, let us say, 1 crore, but the valuation profession would have valued it at 1.5 crores, 2 crores. And when we do a validation of the property and we check the valuation, we find that it has been overvalued. And sometimes, many cases, we find that the title to the property is not proper. The legal opinion doesn't talk about the defective title. As a result of which, once a fraud is detected and the responsible district, we find it very difficult to recover the money from the customers. So this is the reason why, as bank branch auditors, you should be very careful, especially when you are looking into the documents, loan documents. You should ensure that on all fraudulent cases, definitely you'll come across, some things like altering of documents, or, as I said, frauds. Appraisal itself would have been wrongly done. Many things are there. It is essential for you to know the various banks in the fraud sector. If you look at the biggest fraud that took place recently, I just thought I'd share with you, where the banking CDS was not integrated with the SWIFT messages. If you look at PNB fraud, generally the SWIFT messages have to go through a three-layer security system: maker, checker, and verifier. Let us say today you are appointed the bank branch auditor of a big branch in a city like Ernakulam. You need to ensure whether the SWIFT messages are now linked with the CDS. Earlier, before the PNB fraud, it was not linked. So the letter of undertakings were issued by the branch official to SWIFT without the approval of the competent authorities. And as a result of which, we saw the SWIFT messages from one of Punjab National Bank's Mumbai branches were sent to overseas banks offering unauthorized letter of undertaking. And as a result of it, these transactions are not even recorded in the books of Punjab National Bank. All of us have read this, we have seen the newspapers, but only one thing you need to be careful is that when you are appointed as auditor of a big branch in a city, you need to ensure whether the letter of undertakings issued by the bank branches are genuine. Very important. And ensure that it is integrated in the CDS. Now, currently, the RBI has found out this loophole and they now integrated the CDS. So, immediately, the scam could have been avoided. It came after the retirement of an official at PNB who had colluded with Neerav Modi. And if rotation of employees had taken place, I think 11,600 crores loss would have been avoided. So here, one thing which was important was integration of Swiss CDS, which SWIFT was not done. That led to this mishap. Why I'm trying to tell this, friends, is that you as a bank branch auditor should understand how one small mistake committed by one branch official can lead to such a big loss. So God forbid, let us say you are the auditor of that branch, and if you overlook it, there's a huge responsibility cast on your shoulder. That is what Babu was very clear, requesting Mr. Raghu. We want you to highlight how frauds can be overlooked by us, how exactly we should discover frauds. So, friends, fraud detection is a specific subject by itself. And today, as I said, frauds have increased, and fraud detection is becoming very important. And it is even though it's a responsibility of the management to detect frauds and prevent frauds, we as auditors also have certain responsibility when conducting a audit. And whenever we come across any frauds in the branch level, I think we should report to the management, to the higher authorities, and see the central such auditors, and explain to them that there's a fraud that has been committed which has not been discovered by the concurrent auditors or the inspection team. So a lot of fraud preventive measures are generally taken. Fraud detection controls will be put, fraud prevention controls are there, anti-fraud policies are made, continuous monitoring and reporting is done. Because since I worked in the fraud monitoring committee, we know how the fraud cell works. Everything is automated, but the moment a fraud is discovered, the whole, we put the whole team into action and try to go through and deep dive into this fraud and try to find out who are all the people involved. And sometimes we find the bank officials are involved. Sometimes we find that customers are, colluded with some outside vendors and they produce fictitious bills. So it is essential for each one of you, when you are conducting a bank branch audit, to see whether there are any frauds in the bank. So what are the indicators? You might ask me, Mr. Can you just tell us what are the indicators? When there is a significant increase in working capital borrowing as a percentage of turnover, you find that when the working capital increase is there, limits have increased, and significant over the percentage turnover, that's a matter of concern. It rings a red bell. Funding of interest by sanctioning facilities, they don't have money to pay interest. Banks give a head off facility for them to pay the interest. Again, you should that raise a red flag. Frequent head off sanctions. Banks managers have powers to give head off sanctions. If you find frequent head off sanctions are made, I think it's a matter of concern. Heavy cash withdrawal in loan account. Whenever a loan has been disbursed, heavy cash withdrawal is there. Again, that amounts to suspicion that there's a fraud. And where there are frequent change in the scope of a project to be undertaken by the borrower, again, there could be a fraud. And high value RTGS payments to unrelated parties. You can ask the bank branch audit when you go for audit to give us the high value RTGS payments. So any unrelated parties, that means there's a fraud, and substantial related party ties between companies. These are all fraud indicators. I've just highlighted some. The institute has come out with a book on detection of frauds, which you should really go through it. That talks about all these fraud indicators. So, what is your role as auditors? Today, whether you like it or not, the banking system has been using the services of the CA fraternity to find out whether the banking operations are safe and sound. So, Reserve Bank of India expects the CA fraternity to ensure that the system is robust, and the society at large also has got a high expectation, that the bank deposits are safe. So today we find that even the banks for all large NP accounts are utilizing the service of forensic auditors, for which chartered accountants are doing forensic audit. They should have specialized knowledge of forensic audit. We have a certification course on forensic audit which you can register and join online. In fact, this during the pandemic last year, I had the opportunity of joining this course, and I'm midway through the course and I have to give my final examination. Let me tell you, friends, it was a great learning experience. So in case you want to specialize in fraud detection and forensic audit, it's a great opportunity because banks are looking at chartered accountants who have the knowledge of detecting frauds. And this is going to be there. More and more importance will be given for this. Chartered accountants having specialized knowledge in detecting frauds will be in great demand. Another important thing you need to keep in mind, with technology increasing, cyber attacks are on the move or increase. Cyber crime is one of the fastest growing risk in the fraud risk that is taking place, because cyber criminals operate outside the country, and very difficult for us to understand. They're able to hack the bank servers, and even though the banks have good cyber security controls, sometimes a lot of mishaps happen. But definitely, yes, most of the national banks have a very, very sound system of preventing cyber attacks. I have been a part of this committee. I've seen how well the public sector banks are well insulated from cyber attack. But if you're a bank branch auditor, you should understand. You should speak to the manager, find out any cyber attacks have taken place, whether any accounts have been compromised, and only then you'll get an idea. So cyber security audit is something gaining ground, and many banks have cyber security audit in place. Especially if you're auditing a big branch of a public sector bank, you should ask them whether that is subject to cyber security audit. Maybe have a copy of the audit report and see whether effectively the cyber security is there. In branches, cyber security audit is simple, like how to control the passwords, whether the passwords are being loosely used by the manager, sub-manager. All these things you need to see. Who is having the access control to the computers, and how the security controls are being configured in the branch. These are all something which you can ask them random questions, try to understand, and that will help you to get a better idea of how the bank audit is being conducted, the cyber security is being implemented. Way forward, friends, I think our role is very important. Babu said it very rightly. And what is happening is the banking sector is looking at quick resolution of NPAs, and I would suggest that we have this visa for you to conduct information system of audit of branches. Then we have the forensic audit and fraud detection course for you to do a forensic audit. And digitalization and automation is a way forward. Everything would get automated. More and more blockchain would come in a big way in the banking industry. I think blockchain, the first target would be the banking industry, and we have to rescale, and we have to keep pace with the transformation. With this, friends, I am extremely thankful to the Ernakulam branch for giving me an opportunity. My only word of caution to all the members viewing the webinar is that please don't take the bank branch audit lightly. Put in your best efforts. Try to see that you're able to do a quality job. and all the material provided by the institute, you should read it, you should train, you have adequate time to train your staff. You know that you are being appointed as auditor of the bank, you should train your team, give them the guidance note, give them the internal control booklets provided by the committees, and try to see how best they are aware of the new long-form audit report, how to conduct a remote audit. All these are very important. I'm sure you'll have a nice time doing bank branch audit, and I'm extremely thankful to the Ernakulam branch, the chairman, and of course to Mr. Babu for having invited me today to share some of my insights on how bank branch auditors should conduct bank audit. Good luck to each one of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.